different way to get there doesn't make it worse, right? It just makes it different.
That's fine.
My name is Sarah. I'm 38 years old, and I have a 12-year-old son named William, who has been 7 years diagnosed with autism. He was 6 years old. He had not been speaking. He said the word E for everything, and we used sign language to communicate. So we knew something was wrong. It was not a shock, but there was still the reaction of stigma and concern. What does this mean that this term is now officially attached to my child? What is that going to mean long term? What is that going to mean when he's applying for college entrance, if that's on his, those are the odd things that go through your head. I would also say that there was quite a bit of a need to mourn that I didn't realize at the time, but I look back now, and now having experienced other family members going through the similar process, having to say to them, you're gonna mourn. You have, and you feel guilty for mourning because this is your child and they're healthy. And you think, why would I be sad that he's been given a label? I'm sorry, but the image I had for myself of how he would be really had to change when that diagnosis was attached.
Autism spectrum disorder is a neurological and developmental disorder.
ASD can cause significant social, communicational, and behavioral challenges.
According to the CDC, 1 in 68,
1 in 68,
1 in 68,
1 in 68,
1 in 68 children in the United States is affected by some form of autism spectrum disorder.
That's over 1 million children.
1 million children.
that's more than 1 million children.
Despite an ever-increasing awareness of ASD,
Many myths and misconceptions abound. Some examples of that are
all children with autism are emotionally distant and uncaring.
What we were saying before about calming, keeping calm, and how things were when you were younger, and how things are now. What do you think?
That's pretty darn fine.
Pretty darn fine. Glad to hear it.
All children with autism are savants.
People have often asked or been curious about if William has special abilities or savant tendencies like the character in the movie Rain Man, and the truth is, savant skills, not in the way, he's not going to count any toothpicks, he's not going to be amazing at cards. Wouldn't that be helpful?
autism is just an excuse for poor behavior or poor parenting.
I've had my son physically hit me and have the look of shock on those parents' faces of how could you let that happen? And what they don't see, what they often don't experience, and what I try to impart to people is that those feelings of lack of control that precursor an event like that are caused by the same things that we all filter out. A loud grocery store, a screaming child in the next aisle, those types of things in many ways can physically cause what feels like pain to a person on autism spectrum disorder somewhere along the spectrum.
Many of these misconceptions occur because of inaccurate gossip or rumors.
Or stereotype portrayals of people with ASD in television and movies.
Children with ASD can display unusual, repetitive body behaviors, gestures, or expressions.
They may have trouble understanding people's feelings,
Reactions.
Or nonverbal cues.
When speaking, they may have trouble expressing their needs or desires, or may have a preoccupation with a specific topic.
Many children with ASD have a need for a rigid daily routine.
And can feel great distress with even the slight change.
In school, children with autism are often
Ignored,
isolated,
or even bullied.
I have a degree in anthropology, a bachelor's, and I was speaking with one of my professors after I'd graduated and after I'd had William. And we were talking about autism, and she was saying she was sorry that we had this challenge in our lives. And she said, I don't mean to upset you, but in some fields of anthropology, there's been discussion as to whether or not autism spectrum disorder is another form of evolution. Maybe not something we're all heading towards, but it's a way of changing our culture and society so that we have those important people that will see it different, will not necessarily see everything the way that the rest of us are brought up to see. We'll see the small details and make them big. Is it always going to be helpful? No, but her example to me was, we don't know one way or another about some of these people, but she said Galileo thought the sun was in the center of the universe when everyone thought that was insane. He saw the world in a different way. He was willing to break out of the social rules of what society had taught him, and in doing so, he made a vast change on our entire world and history.
What we must all understand
Is that each child with ASD is unique.
It's unique.
and must be treated as such.
We must take the time to educate ourselves and those around us about autism spectrum disorder.
We must take the time to look beyond the diagnosis
look beyond the diagnosis,
Look beyond the diagnosis.
Beyond the diagnosis,
and see the person.
Autism changes every life that it touches.
every life
every life.
Every life that it touches. And that's a good thing.